The Prime Minister says that he'd like to see fewer wind farms, I guess a personal preference rather than government policy. What's your view?
Well, I think that there's two issues here. One, I think it's important that Australians have electricity prices that are affordable and as cheap as possible. But obviously, to combat climate change, I think it's important that we have a diverse mix of renewable energy. My electorate, for example, has one of the largest proportions of small-scale solar in the country, and I think that's a great thing, and I'd like to see more of that solar take-up. Beauty is really in the eye of the beholder, but I have some mates that live in some areas with a lot of wind farms around them, and they really don't like them, and I think that's fair enough. If you live underneath them, it's not that great, but I do think that we need that appropriate mix of a different makeup of renewable energy in Australia and affordable electricity prices.
Now, one of the, the totemic issues for the government, one that you've been supported about, is deregulation and less red tape. Yet the government has now set up a wind farm commissioner and a new scientific committee to look into whether the health effects of wind farms. Do you think that's money well spent, or is it a necessary sop to the crossbenchers?
Well, I think there's two issues again. One is in order to get the legislation through, we needed the support of the crossbench, and that they are representing people in their communities who have come to them with effectively what could be health concerns. So I don't think it's unreasonable to have a look at something that may or may not have a health impact. I think to shut that down is a bit ridiculous. I think I don't maybe not the best option in the world, but it's certainly not the worst option in the world either. And to have a serious, credible individual look at the issue, I think it's completely reasonable. And if we were doing that, we don't need to have the conversation like we're having now.
So do you believe there may be health effects of wind farms?
Well, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a health expert, and I think that's why you would have them look at it. As I can say, from my own experience with some mates that live in an area with a lot of wind farms, they really don't like them, and they really do at least have questions about the potential health impacts, and I think it's reasonable to have intelligent, smart people look into that and see if that is or isn't the case.
Okay, now Amanda Rishworth, you're from South Australia, and nowhere has more wind farms than South Australia, in Australia at least. Are you concerned about their health impacts? Is it not a sensible thing to do to investigate?
Well, look, first of all, Tony Abbott has made it really clear through his attack on the renewable energy target, as well as these comments, that he's not interested in really renewable energy in this country. And it is a real shame because, of course, not only does renewable energy help us tackle climate change, but it also creates a lot of jobs and investment, and that has benefited South Australia. We've created a number of jobs as a result of renewable energy, so it is really very disappointing to see the Prime Minister really what is based on quite unfounded claims. I would also make the other point that Tony Abbott has been very focused on getting rid of expert agencies external to government. So he defunded the Climate Change Council, he defunded the Alcohol and Other Drugs Council that was giving policy advice to government, independent policy advice to government on how best to tackle issues around drugs and alcohol abuse. And then also he defunded the Youth Clearinghouse recently in this most recent budget, which was to give government best practice in how to tackle issues affecting young people. So these have been really important independent advice-giving organisations that have been defunded, and now he's found money to fund what is very much seems like a scene out of The Hollow Man, some sort of commission to look into the evidence, which there is a lot of scientific evidence that suggests there is no adverse health impacts. So,
well, can I ask you about that? Wyatt cited the case of his friends who live near wind farms, that they're concerned, they don't like them. They're concerned about possible health effects. What about in South Australia? Is that the case there?
Well, look, there are people that are concerned that live close by. They're concerned about a range of things, including the effect it has on their property price, as well as other elements around that.
So isn't having a wind farm commissioner to judge some of those issues a reasonable thing?
Well, look, there has been a lot of scientific work done, a lot of scientific work put into this. But really, let's be really clear, clear what this is about. This is about Tony Abbott already stating what his political view is on wind farms. He doesn't like them. He's already made it very clear that he put a lot of confusion and doubt into his commitment to the renewable energy target, and as a result we've seen a huge decline in investment in renewable energy in this country. Really, I think he's picking conventional energy over renewable energy and doesn't want to see the investment and jobs that go along with it.